Honorable Shawn, Minister of Education, Sustainable Development, Innovation, Science, Technology, Vocational Training. Sir, that is up to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I would like to adopt the protocol that has already been established. It is a very lengthy protocol list, but I must acknowledge in a very special way this morning the Acting Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Minister with responsibility for tourism, investment, culture, creative industries, and information, the Honorable Dr. Ernest Hilaire, Minister Kozia from Dominica, other ministers joining virtually, Director General of the OECS and staff of the OECS, Permanent Secretary, Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Department of Sustainable Development that I lead, staff from the department, representatives of collaborating agencies, special invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. It is indeed an honor to welcome you to St. Lucia, Simply Beautiful. Please spend time with her and allow her to inspire you. Some of us would have met a few weeks ago in St. Vincent and the Grenadines at the 9th meeting of the Council of Ministers responsible for environmental sustainability. At that meeting, we committed to supporting broad-based participation in the NDC finance initiative at the highest levels of decision-making in our respective countries. It is therefore reassuring to see that we are continuing this timely and important journey together. Last month, at the wider CARICOM level, I had the honor of chairing the ministerial session of the recently convened 103rd special meeting of the Council for Trade and Economic Development, quoted Environment and Sustainable Development. The deliberations at the two recent meetings were as targeted as they were instructive in relation to plans for building resilience, meeting our climate change goals, and overall environmental management responsibilities. It is clear that we are doing what we must. Fellow ministers, ladies and gentlemen, let us ensure that we continue to play our part. We, as small island developing states, must continue to fight boldly and persevere together amidst the threats of climate change, ensuring in the process that none of our sister countries is left behind. In other words, we have to bind together to reap the benefits that can be derived in partnership with each other. Looking at the program for this three-day forum, it is clear to me that we are moving in the right direction, from the front line to the future, uniting the Caribbean for bold climate action. There are many front lines these days, but that of climate change requires action that will build resilience across critical sectors such as water, energy, infrastructure, transportation, finance, to name a few, through opportunities that respond to and are aligned with our individual member state circumstances, and through cooperation and support that enhance our technical, financial, and technological capabilities. Regrettably, AOSIS, the Association of Small Island States members, recently came away from the June preparatory meeting for the 27th COP to be held in Egypt in November of this year. They came out with concerns that the finance needed, the billions pledged and promised by developing countries, is not forthcoming. And when we do receive a trickle in relation to meeting our adaptation and mitigation mandate, the bureaucracy that characterizes the process to accessing those monies is itself ridiculously tedious and burdensome at best. That notwithstanding, we have to continue to ratchet up mitigation ambition. Our survival, individually and collectively, depends on it. The theme of this forum requires us to be bold in our united efforts as small island developing states in one of the most vulnerable regions of the world. I believe our boldness has manifested itself in a series of efforts that seek to demonstrate our commitment to fighting climate change through collective enhanced ambition in our updated or revised NDCs. Efforts such as this forum, where we seek to have frank conversations at the political level that are informed and influenced by technical guidance that is scientifically and legally grounded. It is all well and good to be advised by technical people, some of us as politicians, but we have to ensure that whatever is given to us by way of advice, it is in keeping with the legislation that govern and guide activities in the areas of national development that we are responsible for. Efforts where we can determine strategically how to tap into the less onerous means of mobilizing resources, both technical and financial. And sometimes when we speak of resource mobilization, people interpret that to mean that we're only speaking about money. Sometimes the resources you need may very well be technical expertise that do not necessarily reside within our jurisdiction, but have proven to be critical, and sometimes the negotiations and the meetings have to point us in those directions. But that is not to say, as somebody who sits in the cabinet and I hear the figures being crunched on a daily basis, that we do not need the money. We probably need that more than anything else. Colleague ministers, we need to support these efforts if we are to achieve the change we seek for future generations of this region and beyond. Change that will ensure that our natural resources are used sustainably to move us to being low-carbon emitters and climate-resilient economies. Change that will prove that in spite of our smallness of size, we are committed to doing all within our limited powers to contribute to the realization of the globally established 1.5 degrees goal. Colleague ministers, I am calling for demonstrable, collective, and fortified leadership amongst us as political and policy leads in a most critical facet of our development as small island states. While we'll amend the rigors of climate finance access at the global level, our leadership can be demonstrated by bridging the gaps with our finance and economic development colleagues and finding ways to determine assignment of national budgets for NDC implementation efforts, including capacity building of our dedicated cadre of technical experts. We may be small as a region, and even smaller when you disaggregate the region. But the one thing I can attest to is that our technical people in the region can match their counterparts from any other region of the world, pound for pound, on the global stage, and that continues to be demonstrated all the time. Our technical teams continue to demonstrate at a very high level of dedication and commitment, and their enthusiasm must be fueled. I know what it is like for a technical officer to be enthusiastic, to be determined, to want to get things done. And sometimes when they come to us as ministers and politicians and they do not get the responses that they want, it can quickly deflate them, it can derail their enthusiasm, and that can never augur well for productivity in our sector. And that is why I am imploring my colleague ministers to give support to the wonderful cadre of technical people we have in our various ministries, and they are even more formidable when we pull together at meetings such as this one. Already, we in this region are lauded for our sterling contribution as negotiators and advisors in the negotiation circles. It is for this reason that I encourage fellow ministers to work collaboratively with CARICOM, OECS, and other regional entities so that they remain steadfast in their support for member states. We must not concede our position of advocacy and influence. We may be small, but we have a voice. We are influencers. And whatever we do, it should never be at the expense of that position and the respect that we've been able to garner on the global stage. We must be bold and united in the various international fora in which we are often called on to support declarations and coalitions. Let me be clear. Once the intentions of these declarations and coalitions are transparent and will serve our purpose, we should lend support. Oftentimes, policy positions of international agencies and more developed countries are just shoved down our throats, or we are being pressured to sign or to be party to. I'm saying that we have to critically examine what is contained in those proposals, and first and foremost, we must ensure that whatever is being postulated sits well with our own development agenda and serves us well. I know it can be something fashionable where we can just rattle the different conventions to which we are party, but how do these serve our agenda on a daily basis? So we have to be mindful of those things when we partake. However, equally important is knowing that the initiators are aware of our needs in meeting these commitments and can assist in driving the required efforts. I am encouraged that the NDCFI has established itself as a regional driver and continues to improve on its efforts at pursuing collaboration at all levels and increasing multi-party conversations on climate leadership in the region. It would be remiss of me not to congratulate the organizing team of the OECS Commission and the government of St. Lucia, in particular, the Department of Sustainable Development and the other supporting agencies like the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of External Affairs, Immigration, Police, Customs and Excise, and others for their contributions to making this forum a success. COVID-19 railroaded our plans for the last 2 years, but with determination and great support from our partners, we have made the second NDCFI forum the reality that it is today. And for that, I'm extremely grateful as the Minister for Sustainable Development, and considering that St. Lucia, in the quasi-cabinet of CARICOM, has lead responsibility for sustainable development and climate change, this means a lot to us when we can have in one room in St. Lucia such brilliant minds to deliberate on the issues that continue to pose an existential threat to not just St. Lucia, but all of us seated in here, particularly those of us who are from the smaller islands of the Caribbean. Colleague ministers, ladies and gentlemen, the time to act is now. We've been talking the talk, and as I said, we have a voice that has been projected on the global stage. We are being listened to, but we have to do whatever is necessary to go beyond just talk, conversations, and meetings, and for action to be seen and to be understood by the average man in each of our small villages in terms of what the mandate is and how that can redound to not just his benefit, but his survival, his children, his wife, and the community they happen to be a part of. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. And so I implore my colleague ministers, the technical people in this room and those who have joined virtually, and the representatives of the various agencies with which we are collaborating, to do our best in the circumstances, because sooner than later, we will find ourselves in a position where not much will be able to be salvaged. Thank you very much, and let us have a wonderful day of deliberations.